Kira Donnelly, and this is the second episode of Post-Grad Zoom Chats, where I talk to some of the members of my graduating theater class to see what they're up to now. Now, in this episode, I talked to my friend Amani. Amani is an incredible friend and an incredible advocate for social justice. Notably on our campus, Amani starred in productions such as the all-female Julius Caesar and Big Love. She also directed and was very involved in our Theater of the Oppressed program. In this video, Amani is going to discuss how her university experience and her study abroad experience affects how she views herself as an artist and how she views herself as an advocate in this world. We also discuss how in the wake of Black Lives Matter, we as artists can move forward and be a part of change. Amani has been an incredible advocate for the current students in the university program, especially those studying the arts, and she's been very intentional about creating tangible change for the current students in the system and leading conversations about what isn't right and what we can do about that going forward. Enjoy Amani's interview. Okay, it's graduation day last year. Where were you moving and what were you excited about a year ago?
Wow. Okay, so things really started off with a bang. For me, I graduated, and in that same week, I had like my first like major audition for like a network show.
Yeah.
And I recorded it right at Coastal in the film studio. It was so exciting, and now, like I just did like a submission, like a self tape for it. But now, like a year later, that show is on Netflix. So it's like crazy to be like, wow, like I was in that pool of people, you know?
Yes. Oh.
It's really exciting. And then I also did my first industrial, which was for Nickelodeon, for like walk around characters that they do like at amusement parks. And this was all like within the first week of graduation.
Wow. So this is film and TV auditions. So this is
Yeah.
through your film and TV agent in the
Yeah.
Southeast? Or okay, cool.
This was literally 1 week after graduation. Both of those things happened.
Wow.
So it was just like, okay, school's over. Done with that.
You're like, I'm ready.
We are. It's like, boom, life changed. Ended a relationship with someone I'd been with for 6 years. Like literally all like when like right after graduation, all of that happened. So like that life of college was abruptly ended for good. But then after that, I did a show over the summer in upstate New York with some of the theater faculty and Matthew Ernest, who we both worked with. That was a lot of fun. I was in the ensemble, but to see them work was really great and a nice transition from like being their student to then like being their colleague.
Yeah.
And then I came home for 2 weeks, and then I moved to New York, and I lived with my aunt and uncle, and my cousin. I lived with them for the first couple of months. I slept on their couch.
That's the way. That's the way.
But it was great to like have family when I like feel like I just didn't really have anybody. And then after that, I eventually moved to Brooklyn in the apartment that I live in now.
Okay, awesome. And so now that you're in New York, what is your, well, I know now is a relative term because we're in 2020 and things are crazy, but so when you moved to New York and you moved into your own apartment, like what was your focus there? Was it still TV film or did it shift to theater? What were you trying to do and create?
Yes. So after Showcase, I signed with Andriatis for like legit and another agency for commercial. So I've like everything that they send me for, which is not that much because I'm still, you know, new and you know, just getting here.
Right.
But that for those types of auditions, definitely been more focused on TV and film. But you know, like all of us, I scour Playbill and Backstage and all those things and go to very obscure devised auditions and stuff. But I would say that the auditions that I've done and the work that I've done since I've graduated has either been TV, film, or like devised theater, like no like straight theater or anything like that. And honestly, I don't know if I really plan to land in that world.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, hmm, I've always kind of felt this way, and it was apparent to me at Coastal, but graduating, it's become even more so that that's not really a world that I want to land in, only because it is so white, male dominated, like all of our industry, but
Mm-hmm.
especially traditional theater culture. And
Sure.
I'm really just not interested in um, being an addition or a side story to white narrative. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just kind of, frankly, I'm just over it. And
Sure.
I so haven't really been putting a lot of energy or effort into that. And I
Oh
don't
my
think
gosh. And I appreciate that honesty. Like, I think that honesty is important, and like, you know where that's coming from, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. That's something to be proud of. And by the way, I love how you started. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I love how you started by like celebrating an audition opportunity. And like, I might have thought that you're like, and then I got it, and then I was on the show, and it didn't go there, but you're like, I had this awesome audition and someone saw my face. Like, I love that positivity of like, I had this opportunity. I think
Yeah.
that's so important because we have to celebrate those things always, but especially at this stage of our careers.
I feel like that's all this stage is, like just getting in the room. I think that when you're a student, you're like, if I don't get out and I don't book like within the first year, then like I'm a complete failure. It's like no one knows who you are. Like you haven't worked, you haven't done anything. And um,
Mm-hmm.
so at this point, it's just like, okay, I'm getting in the room. I'm getting in
Yeah.
the room. So I see that as a victory. And it still really sucks. It
Yeah.
really, really sucks. Of course, we want to book. That's why would we go if we didn't want to book? But I think that that's kind of the next step. Like there's like a step in between that we didn't really foresee, but
Yeah.
living it, experiencing it, it's like, okay, I am valid. I exist here in this particular moment, and I can see where I want to go. But there's things that have to happen before I can get there.
Yeah. I was talking with Emma last week, and we talked about that, how like we all know it's going to be hard, like we're told it's going to be hard, but in the back of our minds we all have this little thing of like, well, maybe I'll be the exception to the rule. Well, maybe like I'll get really lucky, or maybe it won't be that hard. But it is, but you don't really understand it until you're living it you know
Mhm.
um yeah. So what do you do to like bounce back when you are getting into more of a negative headspace? You laugh.
I well, it's been a hard year. I'll just be honest with you. I mean, always living in the South, living in a small town my whole life, uprooting everything that I know and moving to New York City. Um, that in itself is a lot. Um,
Yes.
it's been a very emotional period, a lot of learning and self reflection. And I think that when I can just take a second and allow myself to cry,
Mm-hmm.
check in with people who've had a similar experience who are also at that same stage feels good. And also to go to a class, to act, like it's a part of the reason why we do what we do. And I really like taking like drop-in classes, like things where it's not like, this is what you have to do and you have to go. And there's kind of like, not no expectations, but in a way, it's just like, I'm just here to do my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to do that, leave it all on the floor. And it's like, all right, I still got this. Like
Yes.
I might feel horrible, but I can still do this. I'm still good at this. I still, so um that's what keeps me going. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Oh, thanks for that vulnerability. Because yes, it is hard and it does suck. And there's so much crying in that first year. I know it looks different for everyone, but like, I think we all share a little bit of that, like, holy cow. Oh, what are we doing? Okay. So, you said that you're less and less interested in like commercial theater or like, you know, New York Broadway theater. So has the focus been film and TV or creating your own work? What is the ideal?
Definitely creating my own work.
Okay.
That's always been what I've wanted to do, even when in school. Like sometimes that seemed like to get some pushback.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but that has not changed for me. I would love to. I mean, my love is performing. I want to be able to perform, but there has to be that space, and I think that the space is growing, and there is more opportunity for people who look like me and have experiences like me. However, it's still such a marginal amount that I don't want to wait. I don't want to just wait until I'm going to be 35 until that happens. And it's just like, we're not playing that game. But I would say it's definitely a mixture of both. But now with COVID and everything, what does making your own work look like? I really don't know. I mean, we've learned a lot about what it means to make theater and devising and all those things, but my knowledge of film, my knowledge of that is minuscule. It's hardly but I still respect that as a craft. So in these past couple of months, that's really what I've been trying to learn about. Like, I want to learn more about writing. I want to learn more about film production and things like that, because just as much as I don't want anybody to step into the theater thinking that they know everything when we've spent 4 years learning how to do it. And I wouldn't want to do that and to another craft, because it is a craft and I want to learn it and become a master of it as well. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. So while you're like planting those seeds and doing that research, again, like kind of apart from the past few months, like what did you do to support yourself financially in the city?
I work at a photography museum.
Cool. That's
I,
creative.
yeah, it's fun. So it's like I'm always around artists and, a really nice energy and group of people. But it's great because the museum is open until midnight, so I can work in the evening and not have to wait tables.
Yeah.
And still do the things that I want to do during the day. So it's a lot. Definitely, like when COVID happened and like the first couple of weeks, it's like, oh my God, this is sleep. I don't know her. I forgot about her.
I know. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. But I work that job, and at right before all of this happened, in my head, I was like, how can I make money and be more flexible? Because even though my job is great and I do have a good bit of flexibility, to make the real moves that I want to make, I would need to be able to make my own hours. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that means at that point I was like, I love working out now. I'm gonna become a personal trainer, and I'm like, with COVID, absolutely not.
Yeah, right. But maybe one day.
The sale, definitely not going to do that. But that's something that I'm still trying to figure out, and I don't have an answer yet.
Yeah.
But I want to figure out how I can be more flexible with my schedule, because getting a 9 to 5, doing that kind of thing is, as we know, not an option for us.
I know. Yeah, and I don't know if you're this way, but like I, as a person, really like thrive within a structure. So like the 9 to 5 is actually kind of appealing to me, but I also know that it doesn't let my creativity flow, because even though it's good for my mental health because I'm in a routine and I know what to expect, like it doesn't really allow room for me to like create. So I do get that. That's like a hard balance of finding something that's flexible but also like keeps you structured. I don't know if you need that structure in your life like I do.
I definitely do, but I think that it's structure, so it takes different shapes. Finding one that works for you. I think that it's because I haven't really found my groove yet. I think that, and because the nature of living in the city, like things are changing constantly. Like I always say that it's like every 2 weeks is like a completely different life.
Wow.
So it's like I might find a structure for what works, and then something will completely change, it'll be completely different. So in some ways I've tried to liberate from myself from that idea of
Good.
like having to be in control in that way, and just making sure that I'm putting like my creativity first, whatever that may mean in the moment.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And I really like that you mentioned that you've gotten in touch with like a new interest of fitness. Um, I want to bounce off of that and like ask what new things you've learned about yourself in the past year.
Okay, yeah, let's see, what have I learned about myself? I learned that, hmm, what have I learned? I learned that working out and moving really helps me channel my emotions, my rage. I have a lot of anger. I think that's just part of existing as a Black woman in America. But I found that like fitness is really something that's like, yeah, this is like a healthy way for me to do this. Also a love of like writing and poetry. I've been like going to like open mics and like doing spoken word, and like that has been like my number one creative outlet. That's been super fun. What else have I learned about myself? I've learned that I'm really good at mobilizing and getting things done. And it's like you look back and you're like, well, you've always done that. You know, you've always done that, but you don't like, I don't know. And I guess what else have I learned? I've learned that I'm still learning.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
I've only really just started. And even though like I feel old, it sounds silly saying that,
I
but
know
like,
that. I get that. I get that.
yeah, like I go into the room where I'm like, I like see these people and they're like 19, 20, and they didn't go to school and they're like booking and they're having these experiences. And I'm like, ugh, why did I go to college? Like, I,
No,
I
I think that too. I know. Yeah. It's that weird balance of feeling like there's so much time. We're so early in our career, and also like, oh my God, every day it's ticking. uh, yeah. Okay. And then, so at school, we were both involved in Theater of the Oppressed work. And I know you've always, kept a really like careful eye for, how you approach social change and bridge that with theater. So have you been able to do any of that work in the past year?
No.
No.
I aside from going last summer in, gosh, it was literally a whole year ago now, in June,
Uh-huh.
going to the Pedagogy of Theater the Oppressed conference with
Yes.
Amanda and Jayla, and presenting our work with Project Lighthouse. That was like the last like big thing that I really did
Yeah.
with that kind of work. I've been putting more focus on like trying to root myself in like with auditioning and things like
Yes.
that. And it's so unfortunate that it's like, but I want to like be able to do all of it. So I would say that for myself, this next year is focused on that work
Okay.
of really finding that community, because I don't feel balanced if that's not at the forefront. And I realize like with the way that things are happening in the world now and looking back and reflecting on my experience at school, I realize that if I'm not doing that work, I don't feel like myself, and not necessarily in the shape of Theater the Oppressed, but just making sure that that it's art, being an art activist, not just an artist, and not just an activist, but it's that intersection of identities that is really important, and it has kind of been missing for me in this past year. They've kind of been separate, and I have a lot of work to do. But I also have to find my community here. And I don't know if
Yes.
you feel that way, but I know you um, are still in touch with like people that we went to school with in Atlanta. But I would say that the hardest thing about this year is like you're so used to being with the same people, like whether they drive you crazy or not, like you're used to like understanding how people work, just being able to be in the room with people and know that you're held and that, there's space, and then to just go into the world and everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and that real sense of like just community, and like having to be like, all right, now I'm an individual in the world, and I have to find that.
Yeah.
And you have to be active in finding that. Like it doesn't just happen. And I guess I in a lot of ways I thought, oh, it'll happen. Like I'll find my people. I'll just, I'll stumble upon them, and we're meant to be, and it'll happen. But it's an active pursuit, I'm realizing now. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's daunting. Like, it's so daunting. And I think that's where like a year is nothing, like it just takes so much time and pursuing it,
Mhm.
which, it's hard to like pursue people because I don't know, I've always struggled with that. It's like you kind of feel like when you're just living and being your authentic self that people will be drawn to you. And like whenever you're pursuing things that make you happy, that you'll find that community. And sometimes it just takes a lot more effort than that,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah. But it's really cool that you've learned, that, okay, year one was kind of working on grounding myself. And now this is what I want year two to look like. It's cool that you have that new vision for the next coming year already.
Yeah, definitely. I guess that like when you were saying about structure, I think that I don't really care about like, not that I don't care, but I used to be very much about like, this is how I want this week to look. This is what I have to do in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And more of my focus has been on goal setting,
Yeah.
and it may take different shapes of how I get to those goals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but having like this is my 6 month goal. This is my 1 year goal. Then more about how I've been thinking about channeling and focusing my energy. So definitely that, and realizing that there are a lot more steps to getting what I want than what I originally anticipated. And then also having to be like, all right, I commit to each step of this journey, and not just giving up because it's not happening instantaneously.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Um, Now, if you desire to and are comfortable sharing, I know that you've also been involved in this space of like reform within the collegiate theater um, environment. Is that something you're comfortable talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Sure. What do you want to know exactly?
Yeah. So, okay, like in the wake and the current climate of Black Lives Matter, and also just like what a fruitful time to examine what the theater department looked like to you. And probably that's our theater department's just a microcosm for the whole country's theater departments. What do you think needs to change? I know that's a big question.
No, that's a great question. I do think that there has been a radical shift in our social consciousness as a culture, as a theater culture, and as a global culture. However, this work did not just start. Even at Coastal, on that micro level, this is work that myself and people like me have been doing since the day we walked into that school. So it's nice to see that people are getting on board and finally realizing, hey, we need to make change. We need to do something. So on one hand, it's infuriating that it's like it takes this for you to really wake up and paying attention, but also it's like you're here now, so come on, let's catch you up. We have a lot of work to do. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
um I would say that if I'm just being completely honest, I am extremely disappointed in Coastal. I think that the way that they have handled their responses, it has just been, it's disgusting. It's distasteful. It has shown they have shown no real effort um, to make systemic changes in their institution. And that is up from the university level all the way down to the theater department itself. So there's a part of me that's thinking, just like I mean, we both have learned a lot about um, different political structures in our time in Italy. That was
Yeah.
a large part of our training there. So I feel so privileged to have that knowledge to see, hey, this actually can look a different way. But I think that the systems that are in place, even on a university level, were designed for a specific group of people, and they work exactly the way that they were supposed to work. And now we have to say, all right, so we have to radically change this if we really want everyone to actually have a voice. Everything about the system is broken. We need to take it down and start over. So I am I'm doing my part as an alumni to continue on the changes that I would like to see on that university level in the theater. That is changing the way that the BFA and BA are treated. That is thinking about casting. That is thinking about the curriculum that's in the classroom. There's a problem that we don't learn about BIPOC artists at all.
Yeah.
And those are things that like faculty has control over. They pick the curriculum, they make it up. There's 2 classes that I can think of in which we learned about people other than Lorraine Hansberry and August Wilson. And that's just like, it's like, it makes you cringe just to think about it. And the resistance and the pushback that we're getting, asking for honestly such simple things, is just another testament to how they don't really want to change. So even though I am a part of these conversations and want to see these changes, at the same time, I don't know if it's going to happen. I would like for these things to happen, but I have no problem scrubbing Coastal off of my resume, never speaking their name ever again, and going on with my life. That's just how I feel in this moment.
That's raw, and that's, I mean, wow. At this point in time, do you recommend that, you know, a young Black woman, say a senior in high school, enters the university system to be an artist? Like,
No.
do you think you don't think there's value there, or you just think it's too broken right now?
I think that, well, they definitely shouldn't go to Coastal.
Sure.
Until there are some serious changes that need to be made. I think that that is not a safe environment for someone, that they should not go there to that school. Could it be in the next 5-10 years? Sure. But if you go there now, you're going to be there for 4 years. Don't be the guinea pig. Don't do it.
Sure.
And that's so sad for me. Like, I hate to say that, but I wouldn't tell my sister or my cousin to go there. It's just how I feel.
Yeah.
But I think that I don't have regret. I'm so grateful for the people that I met, and the things that I've learned. I learned a lot at Coastal. Did I learn everything? No. But it definitely shaped who I am now and the perspective that I have now. So for that, I will always be grateful. But I don't know. I'm at this point, I don't know if you're feeling this way, but I'm like, is this the time for me to go to grad school? You know, do I go to grad school and continue my education? But I'm like, do I want to be in another institution? I don't really know. Is that institution also going to fail me?
Right.
So it's a lot to consider, but I mean, I don't know. I guess more than anything, I would be looking to the specific institutions and asking people who've already been there if they recommend that particular program.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Instead of like, I don't think I would make like a sweeping statement about studying art in school, because I think that there is a lot of merit to it. Because there's certain things that there's no way I would not have learned. There's like us going to Italy, never would have had that experience if we weren't at Coastal.
Right.
So yeah.
I gotcha. Okay, yeah. And so now if you could talk to yourself a year ago upon graduation, or any other Black woman graduating, what would you tell them? Like, what piece of advice would you give them on their graduation date? for entering the professional realm?
I would say be patient and show up for yourself, because no one's going to show up for you. And allow yourself time to learn who you are, to refine your voice, because you're going to have to be your own advocate. And the only way to do that is to know how to articulate it. So I would say spend the year learning as much as you can, soaking up everything just about the industry, about the world, and about yourself. And know that you're gonna go through some shit. You're gonna, and also, because of now the way that things are going, this industry is about money, honey. They're gonna want to capitalize on your blackness. They're going to want to find ways, but it may create this false sense that there's more opportunity, but be realistic about what that means. Whose narrative is it? Just because they're sticking your blackface in it, is it still a white narrative? Who's in charge? Who's running this? Whose story is it? And what are you, as a vessel, as an actor, what are you using your vessel as a story for? And I think that's for anybody, especially for women. So we do have that power, and I think that the more that we are in tune with ourselves by, like you said, exercising, doing yoga, journaling, getting a job, meeting people, and just living life, it's going to prepare you that much more. So that was long and not.
No, that was beautiful. Amani, every time I hear you talk, I mean, you just talk with such passion, and like things stir inside me, and then it calls me to come back to what the words you've said and to journal about them, and like understand my relationship to my whiteness, and to understand my relationship to like lifting Black voices. And so you have an amazing gift. You are an amazing person, and I'm so glad to have this video as like a time capsule of you, because I just know that you're gonna create amazing change, and you're gonna look back here. We all are, yes, but I'm just, the work that you're gonna do is gonna be amazing. I just know it.
I'm so grateful for you for doing this. It's something that I think about all the time, and I'm lucky in a way too, because my best friend, she just graduated, Jayla. So
Yes.
so I talk to her all the time. So like throughout this year, she's been finishing up, and I've been like away. So now that she's done and I've been done for a year, and being able to talk to her really has been good, I think, for both of us to kind of like. So it's always something that's constantly in my mind. And now with this work with the current students and trying to give them perspective, it's interesting. But at the same time, it's like Coastal is like one piece of it. You want to create things that are autonomous of you so that it will be lasting, because in the next couple of weeks, we're going to go back to work. We're going to go back to all of these busy lives, and we have to trust that what we create can be sustained there. But it's, everywhere you go, those are still communities. ADA, that's still our community. That's still a piece of us that we take everywhere. And we have a responsibility to each of those groups that we are a part of. So
Definitely,
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing your voice, and we'll be in touch, but this is the 1 year point, so it's really great to hear from you, and to hear how you're projecting the next year to look, and then we'll check back in a year and see how things are going, hopefully.
Chat in a year.
Ooh, exciting. I know. I hope next year looks so much better. So much change has happened. That's very optimistic, but
right now, very bleak.
I know.
But no, there's no reason for us not to be optimistic, because we're seeing how fast things can happen when we mobilize and act together. So just the changes that have happened in the past 4 months, it's immense. So in a year, Oh yeah. We just have
Yes.
to make sure that we keep up our stamina.
Okay, we have a sidebar. We have something we wish was said. Okay, go for it.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I was gonna say that I think that in terms of like being away from the people that you're used to being with all the time, like for me, I definitely found myself relying on like social media a lot more, which on one way is good because it's great to keep up with people. Also, a lot of the people that I know now I met online, which is kind of cool and fun. But on the flip side, like I think that there's also of course a balance and can produce a lot of negative things as well, of just like self-image. And I think that, you know, as a femme, as a Black person, like there's so much of like look like this or be like this. And I would say that to anyone, um you know, coming out of that like safe, you know, little bubble, that it is a tool and it is a weapon, but don't let it be a weapon used against you. Let it be something that you wield, because it could be your saving grace and keep you informed and connected, but it can also take you down. Um, and I know that, like, for me, with everything that's going on in the world right now, like, I've been off of social media for a month.
Yeah.
This Wednesday will make a full month, and like that may sound like what, so what, but like when you're used to being on it for 5 hours a day or whatever, you know, it's a big change. So, but you know, I think that it's okay to do that, to do that.
Yes.
So that was my sidebar.
Oh, that's a good sidebar. That's a good sidebar. No, and I took a month off from social media. I've talked to multiple people in our class who have,
Yeah.
you know, but then when you return to it, you do see that, okay, if I use this responsibly and if I set boundaries for myself, like this is a really great tool. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's like it's not bad. It's like how they use it and use it against us is bad. And even I think that like for us as actors, like even the way we were taught in school was like you have to have a website and your social media has to be super clean and polished and
Mm-hmm.
have your headshot like this. And it's like nobody wants that shit.
Right. They want you.
No one wants that. Like we were taught so wrong. Like just be authentic, authentically you, whatever that may mean, and that will change and evolve if you're truly being authentic.
Yeah.
So it's just I think that I understand why they teach us that way, but also it's not very useful,
Yeah.
because I think that it creates more anxiety and more like this is what it has to be and this is the only way that it can go, and it's just so far from the truth.
Yeah. Definitely. Be
Yeah.
authentically you. Take breaks from social media. Sidebar.
Bye bar.